Good morning, New Fire Festival family, eco warriors, activists, ecology, everybody who has a vested interest in the environment and sustainability. We had a fantastic day yesterday. We ran from 10 a.m. until about 3 p.m. and we had 3 really exciting panels, as well as some interactive sessions from the IDB and a group of artists. Thank you to SWMCOL, thank you to IDB, and thank you to Massy for being our financial partners, and most importantly, thank you to the Jeff Small Grants Program for being our facilitator for funding this entire venture. Thank you to the panelists who were on yesterday and the moderators. Today, we have a shorter session, but by no means less exciting. We have first Ecological, Conservation and Rehabilitation panel, followed by the Education and Environment panel. And after those 2 sessions, we are going to wrap up again with our festival creative director, Jerry Williams, but we have a fantastic treat in the form of a jam session with DJ LB, who is no stranger to the New Fire Festival family. So I urge everybody to stay for that jam session, get your drinks, get your glass of wine, get your water, get whatever you choose to have, and let's toast to a very fantastic 2 days. My name is Kevin Fotheringham. I'm the founder of ECR and CFA for Common Good, and I was happy to be the coordinator for this event. Having said that, I want to take the opportunity now to introduce the first panel for the day, which focuses on ecological conservation and rehabilitation with Godfrey Boodoo and Juan Andrade, both of the Flying Tree Environmental Management, and it is going to be moderated by Ronald Roach, who is a director of TTBI and himself having vast experience in this sector. Take it away. Feel free to send your messages and questions in the chat, and let's get this thing going. Ronald, take it away.
So, thank you, Kevin, for that introduction, and good morning to the audience. Good morning to all the fellow environmentalists, well-wishers, everybody involved in conservation activity. It's good to be here this morning, and warm welcome to all of you. So as Kevin said, my name is Ronald Roach, and I am one of the directors at the Trinidad and Tobago Bridge Initiative. Our topic this morning is ecological conservation and rehabilitation. And with me this morning is Mr. Juan Andrade and Godfrey Boodoo, both of Flying Tree Environmental Management. Juan is a Venezuelan who has been resident in Trinidad since 1996 and is an aeronautical engineer by profession. He is a director at Flying Tree Environmental Management, and at Millgrow Solutions Limited, a polymer products manufacturer. He's also the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Paragliding Association. He's involved in paragliding, kite surfing, boating, scuba diving, mountain biking, motorcycling, and hiking, and is, of course, an environmentalist. Godfrey is a health and safety official, construction consultant, and an environmentalist, and has been with Flying Tree Environmental Management for the past 15 years. Gentlemen, warm welcome to you both. Yeah, so let's get right into it. Juan, you are an aeronautical engineer by profession. Tell us about your journey, which brought you to becoming a director at Flying Tree Environmental Management, and tell us what is the focus of your organization.
Very good morning, everybody. What brought this entire group to stick together into this environmental work was the obvious observation of the human behavior with respect to the nature. We included by force and by by force, I will say, the way the humans evolve in this planet, um, it carry on a heavy price to pay um, uh, with respect to environmental damage. And by being a sports-oriented or outdoors sports-oriented person or group, we realized that every day passes, the environment was getting more deteriorated by human interaction. And we're supposed to be part of the environment, part of the environment and affect the environment in a positive way. But sadly, the way we see Netia as a basically non-important part of our development is taxing the system. So in that way, we decide to do something about it, and we decide that if we wanted to use the sea to fish, or to kitesurf, or to scuba dive, or to sightsee, or just to stroll in the beach in the afternoon, if we want to use the mountains in order to walk in it, to do agriculture, to eat from it, to get the energy that only the mountain give you. If you wanted to use the air in order to fly in it, like the birds, if you wanted to use the air to breathe clean and nice air and make your body regenerate itself with the ozone and the oxygen that we breathe from it, if you wanted to just stroll by and feel good about the nature, the birds, the flowers, it means that you need to do something about to keep that going and not to damage it. And just by simple observation, we was basically forced to take action. And it's so how um, Flying Tree Environmental Management came about by um, uh, the need of use our environment, but use it in a pretty way. The only way to use it for our activities was to uh, become part of the solution of the regeneration of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I mean, what you said is so important because, you know, I think more people need to understand that, need to understand the relationship between our daily lives, our environment, our health and well-being. And so, and you, of course, being out there, saw that firsthand. So I'd like to invite Godfrey now, to tell us how did you become associated with Flying Tree Environment? How did that relationship start off?
Okay, well, basically, as I said, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So what has happened is that many years ago, we do something called paragliding, and we part of the Monetary Conservation Trust in the Manzolina area. And of course, from an aerial view, there was so much pollution on the beach that it was unbearable. Because I mean, we're part of the environment. So what we started to do was start to do collection of plastics, styrofoams, you name it, to try to at least clean up the area that we operate in. And of course, in doing so, we had a huge volume of polymers that we had collected. In doing so, we started to say, okay, let's try to reduce it somehow. So we got a machine and we would have done some crushing in plastics. And then, of course, yes, we did reduce the volume, but then what to do with the plastics? So we said, okay, let's do something called sequestration, where we incorporated into concrete. And our first upcycled product would have been a bench. And it was amazing to know that, listen, we just put in like a couple tons of plastic into this product. And they say, hey, listen, we had an idea coming here on stream, and this is where that born. And of course, since that the operation started to grow in terms of doing more upcycled products. But the whole idea is to try to remove the polymers from the environment. Okay.
Fabulous. Yeah, you mentioned doing work in the river swamp, and as citizens, we drive along the roadways, or we might be jogging, and we see the litter, on the roadsides, and so. But how bad and how extensive is the problem? So when you go into the river swamp or the Caroni swamp, or hiking up in the mountains, how extensive is the problem? Is there still pristine areas in Trinidad, or is everywhere littered with plastics and other types of material?
Well, it's sad to say that once human beings go into the area, we know that they're there because people comfortable with throwing the water bottles and the wraps and stuff like that. So there's no, no kind of responsibility at all. I mean, we are accustomed, if we go into areas, actually one of our habits is that we walk with garbage bags because we clean up after ourselves and after people. So it's sad to say, but just about every single area that we go into, there's a heavy amount of pollution taking place. And as I said, no responsible persons to say, well, listen, let's do something about it. And that is what we have been doing for the past couple of years, encouraging a lot of cleanups, coastal, riverside, trails, etc., and trying to educate the public. Listen, plastics, once you put it where it's supposed to be, then it will become that eyesore.
Yeah, agreed. And I want to talk about that a little bit further because, of course, you all are involved in cleanup and restoration and so. But we need to get involved in the discussion of how do we prevent it in the first place, because you would think as hikers and nature enthusiasts, and so these people would be concerned about the environment and would be sure to clean up after themselves. But that's certainly not the case. But for the time being, let's talk about the Jeff small grants project that you have been involved in. Juan, if you'd like to tell us specifically about that project, and give us some details in terms of when you applied, how long it took before you got a response, and what you needed to do, and why you think you were successful in being the recipient of that grant funding.
Okay. Talking directly about the Jeff SGP. In our first application to Jeff SGP, that happened a couple years back. I was invited by the organization in order to apply. I will not misrespect intended the people that actually was invited and attended to that. We're back. Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
Sorry, so you broke up for just a little bit. If you can, start back with that. Sorry.
Yes.
We're hearing you now again.
Excellent. So in that time when we was invited, I believe that because it was a couple years back, it was not looking as important at the time. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it, but our first session with SGP was a little more complicated than now. I guess that now, maybe because they have new people on board, maybe because they have better thinkers, maybe because it's people that is actually more involved in what's supposed to be done, they see our organization, many other organizations with a little more interest. But I can tell you more what I really think. Within the past couple years, everything has been changing. Within the past couple years, the reality about the damages on the environment by polymers and by bad management of the corporate responsibility at the corporate responsibility levels. The importance of people that actually come in to do an actual change. All these things have been changing. And I believe that now the people that actually apply in FSGP like us, they have a better chance of getting a helping hand. And I believe that is what I think about GFSGP now. Is like how to say it? Is like more accessible. We will say it like that, more accessible. And it's now the time, and I believe they're doing a good job. They're there to help now to find a solution with people like us, NGOs like us. I guess I went a little off the topic, but I wanted to say that.
No, not at all. And thanks for that. And it's good to know, and it's encouraging to know, because sometimes, you know, people think that these processes are very bureaucratic. There's a lot of information that you need to supply. There's a lot of paperwork you need to fill out, and I'm sure there is. But the point that you're making is that it can be a simple process, and that that they're there to help as well, which I think is very important. So certainly, yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. So Godfrey, from plastic bottle to finished product, you spoke about the bench that you made, and so, but I'm sure there are other products that are finished products that you do make. So share with us that process from the plastic bottles and on the beach or wherever you get them from. Tell us about that, where you could collect your plastic from, and what is the process to reach a final product, and how safe too is that final product for the environment?
Okay, well, we have a number of different ways of collecting. As I said, we do like beach cleanups, we do cleanup of the river. We even have people that will come and actually bring plastics to the facility. We even at the factory itself, which generates plastic, we also would get reject bottles. So there are different ways of actually getting the bottles to the facility. Once we get that the bottle itself, of course, you need to identify the bottle, you need to do some sort of rinse. And once you do your rinse, then we put it into our machines. We have a number of different sizes of grinders that will actually crush the bottles to different size of, we simply say flakes. Once we get that, then we would now incorporate that into the sequestration process, where we use it as an aggregate. So we have irregular aggregates and of course a cement binder. And we will mix that in a ransom. And then that product, now once you get the right consistency, we place it in different type of molds. We have pavers, benches, plant pots, highway medians, just about any mold that you want to create into the actual upcycled finished product. Once that goes there and set into the mold, it takes about 48 hours to dry. Then we will take it out of the mold and we'll do the final finishing, which might be just sanding or polishing or painting, etc. And then the product is ready for show. It's pretty safe. As I said, we use plastics. We use a lot of styrofoam, because the only issue is that the styrofoam itself it's not biodegradable. So we incorporate it into our product, and it also helps with the weight, because, for example, one of our benches is over a ton, right? We sequester probably about between 10 to 15,000 bottles in one bench. And one of the things that we do is that because we operate in open spaces, we've made these upcycled products to be, I would say, idiot-proof, right? So it can't be damaged, it can't be stolen easily, etc. Right? So far, as I said, we've done quite a lot of sequestrated products, including the zoo. And to date, we've upcycled and sequestrated over 88,000 tons of plastics. And so far, as I said, we have pavers sitting at the zoo for almost 3 years. Trucks drive up and down. So it's pretty stable, and it's one of the best methods that we've been using, and it's working for us.
Right,
Okay.
fabulous. So your products, you mentioned being at the zoo. What are some of the other markets that you have? Can a member of the public come into you or go on your website and purchase a paver or a bench, or is it limited to specific clients?
The within the products we make, we have online production in Omer Industrial Estate in our main building, where everybody is welcome to come and take a look of the products and to purchase direct by us or by our web page or by our Facebook page or by any of our associates. Within the products, with the markets we have right now, we have agriculture market, we have planters, we have the benches and the beautification or edification of the parks and schools. We actually work with private entities, private corporates at the level of sponsorship, where they actually purchase in behalf of a school, for example, Success Laventil Secondary School, where we place there 16 sets, 8 benches and 16 sets of planters. That was actually sponsored by Suntory Company. And we have benches in where we actually tried the fireproofing of it at MOCA, sponsored by the embassy of the embassy of Australian Great Commissioning. We have people that come by the door and purchase our planters, our benches, and now we have a line of Lego blocks where you which you can use to do your buildings, and you're saving a lot of energy and a lot of labor and a lot of materials while you're using our environmental friendly blocks. They are 100% safe because when we process the items, we have a very direct sorting of the product, what is going to be used in where. Not only for the safety, but it's also because we take the physical capacity of the plastics to do our products. So yes, they are marketable. You can come find us, and you can directly purchase it or partner with us to carry on your project.
Yeah, that's certainly excellent, and hopefully the public can get more involved and provide more support to what you're doing. But tell us something. What is your limiting factor right now in terms of being able to expand? Is it the supply of the plastics or the collection of the plastics? Is it the physical equipment, or is it the size of the market that is available right now? If you had to expand, how would you? What would you need to do to expand on your operations?
Okay. Obviously, like everybody else right now, we have a COVID limitation, which we believe that is transitional, because either COVID finish or we find a way to live with it. So it's just an adaptation time right now as we speak. Yes, we have been adapting our programs like the SGP program, which got definitely affected by the COVID visiting us. And the protocols change, the collection change. Now we cannot just go as before to the beach and just freely pick up the plastics or accept it from any other of our partners in work, like SWMCOL or IKEA program or any community area, because we need to know exactly where those plastics come from. Or by the way, the actual managing of all the wastage before becoming raw material, it need to manage in a more costly way. As I said, we need to just adapt. That will be one of the limiting factors. The second limiting factor, which really is the first limiting factor, is we embark in this great environmental work, not really with the intention of actually doing the most of the physical work. One of our main goals with all this environmental work is to change the ways the environmental work has to be done, but from an education point of view. Our limiting factor to expand, to market, to etc., to do anything we have to do. The big and main limiting factor is education. And the education is what SGP program saw in us. We could be used as an education organization because they realized that we not focus our job on the physical part like collection and making this and making that. We, in other words, we never actually make anything if it doesn't go together with the environmental educational program. Last week, like to show you or to mention, last week we was at Moruga Beach. We did a cleanup campaign in Moruga where we collect the plastics, styrofoam, and many other stuff from the beach. But the main act was not cleaning the beach. Anybody can clean the beach. You can send anybody to clean the beach and they have a lot of fun. We actually have many cleanups. Anybody can do it. What not everybody can do is educate while you cleaning. Why you cleaning? Why you doing it? What you picking up? Why you picking it for? Now, children, after you pick up all that, youth, ladies, gentlemen, once we pick it up, look what we're going to do with it. Look at now, look at here, we are doing it with you. In order to do that education campaign, which is the really important part of all this job, it requires machinery, it requires equipment, it requires transportation, it requires a lot of stuff, and that is all the help that we are getting from SGP. We're getting it's not just the economical part, because I don't know how I can be talking about our private stuff, but we get a lot more from SGP, from the guidance and from the help and from the how to do things point of view, rather than from just the money, because the money is the least of the problem. The money, everybody can find money. What not everybody can find is this relationship in how they know how to do the things. Okay, that is the what I will say, our limiting factor that we are actually getting through with it. Thank God, and we are very happy of what we're doing. Our limiting factor is the education of the general population, and there is where we're working the heaviest right now.
Yeah, that really is music to my ears, and that whole point about education is a very valid one. And in fact, our next session at 11 o'clock speaks about education and the environment. So I advise the audience to stay tuned and be part of that very important discussion as well. But it's also important, it's also great that you were able to bring up that in terms of what may seem to be a technical project actually has a very big education component. And I think that's certainly one of the learnings that we can take from this morning's session. So let's move on. In terms of what you're doing, the work that you're doing, describe for us what you see as the true impact to the environment, going and cleaning up the beaches and so swamps and that sort of thing. What impact is that having on our natural environment at this point?
You want to add?
Well, thinking about that, the fact remains that since 2015 we've been doing a lot of cleanups. All right, and it's not just cleanups that we do because we also do reforestation, right? There's some quick data here that we've done quite a lot of different upcycle products. And as you mentioned, would have been benches, pavers, pots, construction platform. And just a quick figure, we've managed to sequester over 7.3 million plastic bottles in that time frame. And we do a lot of reforestation work also, because of course we would have done work in the river swamp, Fora, in different areas. And in light of that, we planted over 100,000 trees. And based on calculation, we're looking at over 100,000 tons of carbon that would have been captured. So, I mean, we will continue to as I say, Juan would say, the education and the partnering, and we always welcome people who genuinely want to be part of doing environmental work. We've had a lot of people come under false pretenses because, unfortunately, when people hear you're getting support externally, I think they always think that, there's something that they could get, right? But we put out a lot of time and energy, and we continue to do that, and so much so I think we've been able to match Jeff program also, and that is why we could have, with the support, we managed to duplicate the whole project because we operated not just in Kernaham and Manzalina, but we also operated in Roxborough, Tobago. And we even jumped the gun because, I mean, realistically, Kernaham have so much issues that we're going to be sequestering plastics, but Kernaham have a lot of farmers, and the farmers use a lot of chemicals. So Tree went ahead and decided to do work and looking at and investigating the actual chemicals, the containers. And Jeff stepped up again and said, hey, listen, let's go ahead, let's do whatever. So right now, as you speak, we have a lot of containers here at the compound that we look into process the chemical containers itself and sequester it into the different upcycled products. And this is now going to be doing a lot of testing at New Week to see exactly what the impact. And we're going to be going ahead because, as I say, we're not just looking here, we're looking at down the road. And as far as the issues come up, we deal with it. Yeah.
Fabulous. You mentioned you welcome the public, and so how can members of the public who, as you pointed out, the ones who are genuinely interested in ecological conservation and rehabilitation, how can they get involved? How can they become part of your cleanup efforts or your forest, your reforestation projects?
Well, as again, because of the restrictions that we face, like 2 weeks ago, we had, because we do paragliding, and we had about 6 persons that have come to do paragliding. So part of the education there is that we take them up into the sky so they actually see, listen, this is the impact of the garbage and the pollution that's taking place. And we keep that one of the ways we keep the NGO going. But it's simply as messenger us on Facebook, through Flying Tree and through Paragliding Association, and say, listen, we shoot us an email and say, listen, this is the name of the organization, this is the individual, what is your idea? And we would normally communicate to people and say, listen, ideally, this is how it could work, this is how it can't work. A lot of people, they have a lot of suggestions too that we're willing to listen to. And as I say, but we need people who are genuine. And so far, as I said, we have had a lot of good experiences. In fact, there were situations where we had to now direct persons to sort their plastics and take it to the IKEA bins because at one point in time, they thought it was a collection facility. We had on weekends, on a Monday morning when you open the gate, it's like hell. Because people, I think because of how the loop is being closed, because people know, listen, these people not just taking plastics and dumping it, they're actually making a product. right? And even when we went into schools, we spend a lot of time there because we actually do a complete, display of what the plastics come. So, there's something physical. It's not like, oh, well, we recycle. No, we upcycle, and there's product to show. So, as I say, it's as simple as just messages. We're going to be developing the page a little more and, make it a little more user friendly and stuff like that. But there's so much work to be done. And now with Jeff asking and getting all the NGOs to come together, I think there's an excellent idea. So we're looking forward to work with everyone. Okay.
Fabulous. There has been talk for the last 20 years about beverage container legislation. Government has, again, in recent times, been bringing that to the forefront again, and they are saying that that legislation is going to be passed soon. And agencies like EMA and state-owned company SWMCOL have been involved in preparations for that upcoming beverage container legislation. How do you see that impacting on your organization's efforts at this point in time? Do you see it supporting or hindering what work you are presently involved in?
I think I want to answer that very simply. From first, we need to see the final beverage containers legislation written. We need to read it. We need to put it on the public. Everybody needs to put their opinion on it. That will be in the ideal circumstances because everybody is supposed to get involved in the major decision taking in the country and in any country. That's supposed to be done in that way with public consultation, providing the public target have the education to make any comment or the education enough to understand what is all this all about. Trying not to make a conflictive comment. I will explain to you that we have been doing our job by ourselves without anybody help. I am not betting my future on any governmental bill that pass or doesn't pass. I cannot bet my organization on that. If I start to wait for the politics of the country or for me to succeed, then we will end up either corrupted and doing nothing, or we will end up very beggars and poor and our organization will never succeed. We succeed at Flying Tree organization because we are out of politics, because we're not waiting for politicians to decide what we can do or what we cannot do. The beverage law of Trinidad and Tobago, or definition of the problem of the plastics in Trinidad and Tobago, and I want that the people will agree or disagree with me. If you use a little common sense, you will understand that who brought the plastics in have to take it out. And the only way to do that is by creating an economical interest on the private sector in order for the private sector to step in, because they will see a profitability on it. And anywhere where it's profit, the private sector put in the investment and the money, and it's run private. That means it needs to work, and that is the way the private sector apply the finances. I will put in my money and I will make it work. Anytime all this plastic is used, or while the plastic in Trinidad and Tobago and in the planet continue being trying to manage by the government and politics, we fail. It will continue failing. I'm going to fail again no matter how many legislation you bring, because you're trying to bring in a legislation of plastic containers, basically duplicating green fund, which already exists. So yes, I am very uneducated on the fact and on the matter. I did not read the law, okay? But the answer is, if you give value for the plastic, then the solution will become overnight. From today to tomorrow, you will see people picking up plastics. You will see the dump. You will see the people opening back the fila in the dump, the landfill, and taking out back the plastics out of it. You will see people fishing the plastic out of the sea and out of the water. And the only way for us to give a value to the plastic is by changing the taxation system of the polymers entering Trinidad across the border. If you change the taxation, the RPT, those who don't know RPT, recycle PET, just to mention PET or any other recycle, the value will go up higher than the virgin material coming from outside. That is the only way, and it's not other. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those insights with us. Of course, we spoke about your project and all that has been successful, but surely you would have experienced challenges at some points in time. Tell us about those challenges and how you may have been able to overcome them.
The challenges. Education system doesn't include environmental work. In other words, we are teaching our children a million stuff about mathematics and chemistry and engineering and all kind of things, and we believe that the environment is not important enough as to teach a child about the environment. And we believe that the parents will be the ones doing it, but the parents was never taught neither. And so on, our main challenge is a poor environmental education. I want to share a small social experiment. We do social experiments. A small social experiment that we did, and I'm sure everybody will understand it. We go by a very polluted beach, very polluted beach. I will mention anyone in Trinidad, very polluted beach. And we went there, actually this happened at Manzanilla Beach. And we interviewed the people that was at the beach, asking them if they was comfortable, what they think about the beach, and how they enjoying the day with the children. And they talk about many stuff. They never was even concerned about the amount of garbage that was around them. We did the same experiment at Coral River. Actually, my daughter took part in that experiment. She was with me. We did the experiment at, I think it was Indian Bay, in a couple other places. And it's frightening, it's very frightening to know that more and more we believe that the garbage out there is part of the environment, is normal and is natural. And that is to show you that the environmental education at the school level, it failed. So our main challenge is education. Our second challenge, I could say, is the legislation, the taxation system and legislation. The government needs to do a better job in sitting and drafting laws and regulations about our environmental work. But again, was those people that have to sit down on that parliament or in that table of negotiation to draft laws and regulations, are they educated about environmental work? Do they have the knowledge in order to create a regulation that will change that? So that is another big problem we have, another limitation. The people in charge is not educated to the level that should be. We have a lot of ministerial positions filled by people that have no idea of the work at the ministry. The Ministry of Sports, for example, I could say it. The Ministry of Sports or the Ministry of any other ministry you want. And why talking about politics there? Because they are the ones we hire and put there in order to regulate many things, including the environment. So we have problems with regulations and law. We have problems at the level of education. but 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 the people out there, the people is waiting and is hungry for knowledge. The children and the youth are hungry for knowledge. They are waiting for the knowledge. They are ready to work. They already saw, even without being educated, they saw the damages. They are conscious of it, and they are just waiting for that to change in order to come on board. So we have the limitations, yet at the same time we have this happiness that we are going on a good way.
Yeah, again, thanks for sharing those insights, and I certainly agree with you. And I think that's why that next session about education and the environment is so much, because it's so important, because there's only so much you can do with respect to cleanup, and if you don't change that culture, then you're going to have to be cleaning up for far too long, and the cost is just going to be astronomical. And of course, certainly the legislation and government's involvement, I think, is also an important piece. Certainly, the private sector is doing their part. The public is doing their part. Environmentalists and NGOs and organizations such as yourself are also doing the part. So the missing link seems to be that of government and their efforts as well. And what needs to be done with respect to that. So tell us, of course, during the project, there must have been something that you didn't expect. Tell us what was a surprising element of your project so far.
Well, actually, because of experience, I don't think we had anything that was surprising. We had the issue, of course, we spoke about COVID. But other than that, we adapt, we adjust, we roll out the program as fast as we can. And yeah, the excitement is there. So for me, was no surprises at all. I don't know, Juan, if you had any surprises.
The reaction of the public, the reaction of the general public when we start to go in the wide open, maybe surprise a bit, like when we go to the schools. It surprised the reaction of the children at the schools.
It was a positive surprise.
It was a positive surprise.
A positive surprise, yeah.
A positive surprise. Sometimes we don't expect the children to be so much into it and to wanting to learn so much. That could be a possible surprise.
I think even at the school level, one of the surprises we've been selling to the entire nation is that some people were doing recycling. And the reality was, I mean, it was sad to say that no recycling was being done. All right. So we're talking upcycling, right? And we're going to continue to do upcycling. All right, because I mean, the reality of recycling and the cost factors and stuff like that, the industry it's not economical at all. So we promoted upcycling. Okay.
Right. So to the organizers, I just want to clarify, we started a bit late. It's 1 minute to 10 now. I don't know if we are allowed an extra 10 minutes to make up for that time. If somebody can quickly indicate that for me. I see my live light is blinking, and I don't know if that's because we're going to come out of being live at 10 o'clock. So hopefully we'll get some clarification on that pretty soon. But in the meantime, let's continue. Tell us the most useful project lesson. What can you share with the viewers at this point in time regarding what you see as the most useful project lesson from what you have been involved in so far?
Mm.
Well, the thing about it is that more and more, what we continue to learn is that plastic's here to stay. We're surrounded by plastics just about everything. You know, the clothes, utensils, the containers, and we need to adapt, we need to learn, we need to educate. So, and moving forward, we need to bear that in mind and work with it. Work with it just like how they tell us to learn to adapt to COVID because it's here to stay. Plastics here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke, I want to come back to that discussion about the education component. And it's one thing going in and cleaning up a beach or cleaning up the swamps and getting people involved. How do we avoid that though? How do we ensure that the plastics do not end up in the environment? Because certainly it's an added cost to now have to go and clean up instead of preventing it in the first place. We spoke about legislation, and I guess that has some bearing on the matter. But what else do you think we need to do as a population, as citizens, as government, as business sector? Who needs to get involved, and how can we more effectively get involved in this whole aspect of ensuring that people do what they need to do in the first place so that we won't have to clean up the beaches? Give us your thoughts on that matter.
What the population need to get involved, the population need to get more involved. I repeating again what we just said, into finding ways to educate the children in home. We need to continue working, trying to make this symbiotic relationship in between the actual plastic producers and the middle economy. Is how to explain it. The involvement of the private sector need to become a little stronger. Private sector normally doesn't get involved if it's not a profit on it. In order to create that profitability, the NGOs need to step in and try to find symbiotic solutions with the private sector, where the two have a little more something to gain about this relationship. By doing so, the NGOs and everybody involved continue fixing or preparing the grounds on the education, etc., in order to give a little time for the legislations and etc. to come in. We have so many things to do. I mean, where I will say where to start and where to finish.
The thing about it too is that, I mean, in my little village of Brazil, one of the issues in a lot of communities is the collection system. The collection system, I think if we have more bins and a better collection system, at least the pollutants will end up in the bin and be able to be collected. But if you don't have that in place, because of our culture, is that it's simple to just throw things in the ground. Now, part of what Flying Tree does is that we also do work internationally. And there's a little town called Ronald in Colombia. And just about every corner, there's a collection bin. Even on the trails, go into the mountains where we do the paragliding, there are collection bins. So that, I mean, in terms of, you know, if you have the system to receive it, then it's going to help reduce it in the wrong place. And of course, if the collection system is there, then at least you could be able to house it in a certain area and not running after it all the time to say, okay, end up in the wrong place. So I think if we fix that, that will start showing a better result.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Anne-Marie in the comment section is saying that we actively need to talk about, teach and discuss waste reduction techniques as well. So in terms of the hierarchy of waste management, practicing the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So, so gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our session. It has been very enlightening. The work that you all are doing is very much inspiring and encouraging, and I'm certainly glad personally to be part of this discussion this morning. I was quite happy to hear you say that one of the surprising aspects of what you have been involved in is the response of the children, and that is very encouraging. It shows that there is some hope for the future, but we do need to reach out to them more, and we do need to really convince them to change their behaviors, so that our next generation, if we can't even reach this present generation, at least we know the next generation will take matters into their own hands. So at this point, I would like to, ask you all for some closing comments. In a nutshell, any message you have for the listening public and general public at this point in time. I'll start with you, Godfrey.
Well, I just want to say that, Flying is really happy that we were part of this discussion, and we want to know that at the end of the day, we've had a lot of discussions, and if we could just pull out one or two things out of what we discussed and actually work on it, and really, really work on it, we're going to get the results that we want. And again, I want to thank Jeff and Gunza Sharda and all her support that she's continued to give us. I know she work her tail off with all the other NGOs, and as I say, we don't want anything to just, we don't want it to just be a talk, right? So, thanks again.
Thank you. And Juan?
My main message will be all the environmentalists in Trinidad and Tobago and all the NGOs in Trinidad and Tobago. When I say environmentalists, I'm talking about from the guys at the Bio Society in UWI all the way to maybe people in higher governmental organization position. Everybody, please, we need to get together, we need to network, we need to stay together, we need to work together, because it's no time anymore to try to pull each other to the sides. It's not about economics anymore. It's not about who can get what. It's about the nature, and we need to join and get together. And for the general people, general population, our doors are totally open, and it's something that you should know. We do environmental work involving fun. We always have fun. We having this environmental career now where we fly, we hike, we dive, we fish, we run, we bicycle, we motorcycle, we travel, and it's a lot of fun into environmental work. If you come and you join us, you will have something to do every weekend. You will be just waiting for the next weekend or for the next day just to work with us. It's a lot of fun involved, and you doing something good for the environment, for the future of our generation. Thank you very much to Jeff program and to our collaboration partners. Thank you for Milagro Solutions have been there supporting us from the one. So check out Flying Tree Environmental Management. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you, Juan. Thank you, Godfrey. Juan, I must say that I think that's a perfect way to end off that message of having fun whilst protecting the environment. I think it can't get any better than that and any more rewarding than that. So I'd like to thank both of you for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and what you have been involved in with us. And hopefully we can take from that and learn and continue doing and expanding on the work that you're are currently involved in. So this brings an end to this session. I just want to remind you all that there is an interactive session coming up, and it is with Micah. She is a photographer behind the Floating Tropics virtual photography exhibition, and she's not just a photographer, she's an anthropologist, environmentalist, and researcher. So Floating Tropics is an ongoing project that really juxtaposes nature with developing industrial landscapes in Trinidad. So get in and have a chat with her, and that's on now. And at 11 o'clock, the panel discussions continue with education and the environment. So thank you once again, and we'll be signing off now. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.